The conversation here on Lagos Television, and today we are examining a concept that shapes not just policies but the everyday lives of our Lagos residents, and that is developmental philosophy in governance, the Lagos example. Now, this sounds like a project topic, but we have our guest in the house who is going to break this down. Joining us is Taiwo Olapade. He is a journalist. You're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to have you join us.
Thanks
So,
so much.
I said developmental philosophy in governance, the Lagos example. When we talk about developmental philosophy in governance for citizens to understand, what does this mean?
Well, thank you so much. If you permit me, let me just quickly read through, because I did a bit of research coming down. Developmental philosophy of governance focuses on proactive states intervention to enhance citizens, just like you said, citizens' quality of life through economic growth, social justice, and infrastructural development. And to buttress this, Chapter 2, Section 14 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, A and B. A says that sovereignty lies with the people, while B of that same section says that security of lives and property and the welfare of the citizens is the basic responsibility of government. So when we are talking about philosophy of governance, as the case may be, we are talking about the nitty-gritty of what are those responsibilities of government, particularly to the citizenry. However, before I even touch on that, we as citizens of every other country or nation, we also have some duties to government. And one of such is to abide with the rules and regulations of the land. And from the video you just saw, Lagos Sense or something, you heard what that guy said. So it's part of our own responsibility, our own duty as citizens, because we are very quick to point accusing fingers at our government. Government is not doing this, government is bad, but we as citizens, have we also done our own part in ensuring, because whether we like it or not is collaboration in the long run. So as citizens of the country, have we also done the needful before we can say, oh, can we also hold our government to account? Have we done our part by abiding with the rules and regulations? Have we also done our part by ensuring that voluntarily we pay our taxes, we pay our levies? By then, we have the right as well as citizens to now ask government or governor or Mr. President, as the case may be, that Mr. President, my duty to the state in this regard, we're talking about the country Nigeria, I have done it. I abide by the rules. I pay my levies, I pay my tax. I need this, I need that. So, but maybe as we move on, we now break it down as regards what are the responsibilities of government to the citizens.
All right. For me, developmental philosophy in governance, it's like a mindset or a set of ideas that determine how the government should run and what determines how government develops a state and how it measures progress. And so for Lagos State has a blueprint, if I may put it that way. I'd like you to just touch on some of the things that you as a Lagosian have observed that has worked in Lagos.
Well, before even moving to, I'm not too sure whether you are referring to the themes agenda or themes plus, or, you know, there are so many. When we say blueprints, that's the ideology of the state as regards how they want to take the state to the next level, as commonly said, that moving, you know, Lagos, smart city, greater height, greater Lagos, and the like. So, but whether we like it or not, as citizens of every other country, you know, I did a background, you know, about what should be our own responsibility as citizens. If we have done our part, definitely the government must also not be found wanting in also responding and also doing their parts. And some of those that are the responsibility of government, as the case may be, whether federal, subnational, which is the state, and also at the local government level, in terms of social amenities and infrastructure. And before we can even talk about government providing social amenity, security must be paramount. Security must be accorded utmost attention, because it is when the nation is secured, it is when the state is secured, it is when the local government is also secured that we can be talking about now government creating an enabling environment, an enabler for people to do business, go about their normal activities and the like. But when the security is lacking, or when the security is challenged like we are facing nationally at the moment, then it will be challenging again per se for citizens to really do what they need to do to sustain themselves. So in terms of what government should do, security must be prioritized, security must come first. Then after security, we talk about also job opportunities. We know government cannot create job for every citizen. Like now in Lagos, we are told that Lagos is having a population of over 20 million
yeah.
at the moment. We know the strength of the government civil servant structure, as the case may be. I'm not sure that Lagos State government also employs up to about, I'm not sure it's up to about 600 or 500,000 thereabouts. I don't have the figure sincerely, but okay, let's just give it 1 million. If government has employed 1 million
Out
people,
million.
who, you know, high, and that's why the enabler I spoke about earlier, government need to create conducive environment for businesses to thrive, for you and I to also be an employer of labor. And that's why I said earlier that security is paramount, security must come first. When people know that they are secured, then they will have the mind to think about what can I do to give an employment to one or two people and the likes. But when there is insecurity in the land, definitely it will be difficult for businesses to thrive, and it will even be difficult for us to have a peaceful and coexistence among people of that state, local government, or maybe a nation at large.
You know, you talked about Lagos having over 20 million residents, which is what we, and it might even be more than
of course.
And that because again, Lagos is a state with a rapid population. You have people migrating into the state steadily. But again, I'd like you to talk about how the government, or how well the government has done in, you know, shaping development, accommodating these people, accommodating, as the population
is growing,
rises, grows, and how government is ensuring that they are on their toes.
Well, sincerely, every time I come here or on any other media platform like this, I don't envy those who have been saddled with responsibility to govern us. It's not a child's play. Let us be honest with ourselves. And it's also not a rocket science. It is not a child's play, particularly to govern a country like Lagos, or sorry, a state like Lagos, and also a country like Nigeria. It's not easy. It's not rocket science. However, when the enabler is there, enabler in the sense that the atmosphere is conducive rather. Like Lagos now, we thank God that we are not being challenged by insecurity like we do have in some other part of the country, like in the northeastern part, the middle belt and the like. And we are hoping that government are also responding adequately to all those security threats. But in a state like Lagos, where we know that environment is conducive, then the challenge is also for government to attend to basic needs of the people. And you are asking whether what have I seen around that can show that the government is also responding to their own constitutional responsibility. Just like I said, that Chapter 2, Section 14 of the Constitution says that number 1A of that chapter says sovereignty rather belongs to the people, and the B of that section also says security of lives and property and welfare of the citizens is also the responsibility of government. So let us now break it down. If indeed we have seen that happen, whether in Lagos or whether in Nigeria at large, we have seen examples of government activities, and whether you like it or not, it is always work in progress. You do not expect a governor to do it all. You do not expect a president to do it all. You just have to come and leave your own mark and leave a legacy for those who are also coming behind you to also build upon. The same way our current president did between 1999 to 2007. He passed the baton to former Minister of Works, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola. Then from Fashola to Governor Akume Ambode now to the current governor, Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu. So successive governments have always done something that people can really point at in terms of infrastructural development in Lagos State. And whether you like it or not, by the population of the state. That's why I said I don't really envy any governor of this. I don't even know how governors sleep well, sincerely. If you think about the number of population that you have to cater for, go to, is it Bega, they call it Okara. If you see the influx of people on a daily basis. So you now imagine that these people that comes in, and out of every about 10 people that comes into Lagos on a daily basis, maybe about only about 4 or 5 returns to where they came from. The remaining people settles down to somewhere you cannot really point at. So it becomes so challenging, and that's why we're also having infrastructural decay so easily, because the population is growing geometrically. And if you don't see development, or if you don't see infrastructure meeting up to the way the society is growing or the way the population is growing, then it becomes so challenging. And that's why sometimes you see people also sleeping where they're supposed not to, see people defecating openly. And that's why the government also set up a task force against open defecation. And we have seen over the time how many people have been arrested, are taken to mobile court, and also prosecuted. But government also need to also look into that area, because if we have more of public toilets, definitely you also want to think about what becomes the consequences of your action. But people will say, oh, where's the toilet? Or maybe the toilet is also, the public toilet is also expensive. But we need more of this. These are some of the infrastructure. We need potable water for a population that is growing geometrically. We need a health institution that can really attend to the health needs of the residents. We need good road network. Because whether you like it or not, because of the density of the people, because of those who are also traveling on the road, and that's why you see most of this road or this road network getting so dilapidated at the point, because the number of, sometimes the number of articulated vehicles that also applies all this road. So it means that government must always be responding and be responsive to either you do a repair regularly, or you even try to also even build new roads, because of the population and because of the way people also commit around the metropolis. So it's very challenging, but whether they like it or not, that is the mandate that has been given to government, and they have no reason to tell us that they can't meet up to those expectations.
That's what government must
Yes, that's why we are elected them, and that's why they are there.
Okay, so let's look at some sectors and how well the government has done in prioritizing development in these sectors. Let's take transportation and housing together.
Well, transportation, I sincerely want to give it to successive government in Lagos State, and maybe particularly this current one, because we are now doing more of an intermodal means of transportation, because in the past we relied heavily on the road network, and you can't really blame people for that, because many people also have phobia for maybe transportation or commuting over the waterways. But we know that governments have built more ferries, more jetties rather, and we're also having more new, more modern, let me put it that way. If you go to Falomo, you will see modern ferries that you can even be compared to some developed society. And that shows that government is also responding to that sector. We also have the blue line, we have the green, we have the orange. I've even lost count of all different rainbow color. Right. So they're also operational. And this move people so fast from the point of point of takeoff to the point of destination. So that means that, and we also have the BRT. If you know how many people
And the last
also
mile buses too.
also commute from one point to the other through, and it's a fast lane. So these are some of the areas we see government also meeting up the yearnings and expectations or aspirations of the people in that regard. So we want government to really do more in terms of building more jetties, so that they can also deploy more ferries and sensitize members of the public that there was a time years back. I have an assignment to cover in Apapa. I'm talking about over 20 years ago. And I was talking to myself. I was ready late for that assignment. How will I get to? I was talking to myself, and somebody just heard me say, "You are going to Apapa." I was at CMS bus stop, just talking to myself. I'm already late for that assignment. And somebody said, "That's Apapa in front of you over there, pointing across the sea." I said, "Apapa, how will I?" Say, "That's a ferry. That's a jetty." So that was my very first time, and it took me less than 5 minutes to cross from CMS to Apapa. And this is a journey that could have well taken up to about 1 hour, 30 minutes minimum, or even not 2 hours, because that was where we had the Apapa gridlock when it was really thick then. So since that day, I couldn't really believe it. It was just like another miracle of Dama to me. So I can easily move from CMS to Apapa within less than 5 minutes. I was on the other side. So government needs to really educate people, enlighten people more as regards taking to the water transportation, and also ensure that the logistics are provided, including ensuring that people put on the life jackets. And so far so good. We have not even heard of any recent boat mishap and the likes in Lagos, because people are taking to these ferries, and these are some of the infrastructure, particularly for transportation, that you made mention of, that government has provided. Moving on to housing deficit in Lagos is a major challenge because of the population density. Population is growing geometrically, just like we said, but can we really say that the government has really meet the demands and journeys of our expectations of the people? In that regard, it is work in progress. We have seen housing estate constructed by government all around the state, but most of these estates are yet to be occupied, and the reason is also best known to you and I. Maybe government needs to also look back and review the policy of the ownership of those estates. As at the last time that I checked, you have to pay maybe a minimum of about 30% of that, the total amount of the money to occupy such. And maybe that's the reason why I can't really speak for government in this regard, but government needs to ensure, because shelter is very, very important. When you talk about security, when you are secured and when you have a job to do, what comes next in terms of social amenities or the needs of the people is shelter. You must have a roof over your head, and that's also part of the responsibility of government as enshrined in our constitution.
Okay, let's talk about health and education. How well do you think government has prioritized these sectors? Well,
health is wealth. And people say, if you want to see how healthy a nation is, look at the people. Look at the people. Health is wealth. So health is another major area that government needs to also accord priority to. And I want to give it to our forefathers or our founding fathers, like late Chief Obafemi Awolowo. During their time, there was free education, there was free health, medical care, that was free, everything, virtually everything is almost free. Until tomorrow, people still make reference to the liberation of the Southwest under late Chief Obafemi Awolowo. The record and the legacies of Pa Babake Kiri, Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, particularly in education and housing, is still there for any government, any successive government to match. So it's a clarion call on government, because whether we like it or not, health, they must prioritize health. Housing must also be accorded priority, because these are fundamental human rights of the citizen. The government must provide. Why do we run abroad? Why do our people decide to japa? It's because they know that the government over there takes adequate care of the citizens. We're not even talking about their own citizens. We're talking about foreigners now, people who are also migrating, moving.
There are structures. Okay.
The structure is there. You go in there, they allocate you, they give you your number, they know who you are, they know where you live, they, you know. When last did we even have the national census? Now, we even speculate. Lagos is about 20 million or 22 million. Nigeria is about 222 million. How long are we going to continue to guess our figure, our number? And if you don't know the figure of our population, then how progressively, how easily can we also plan for our citizens? It's just like a father or a parent that doesn't know the number of the children they have. Then it will become challenging for them to also plan on how to educate them, on how to give them food, on how to do basic necessity of life for them. So government must also consider this national census. It's very, very important. If you don't know our figure, it will be so difficult for government to also properly, you know, put in place infrastructure for the citizens. And that's why, particularly for Lagos, we have infrastructural decay, you know, because the population is massive. The population is more. However, population must also be a blessing in disguise, because these same people, they also pay tax, they also pay levy. So government can also come and say that they don't have enough to cater for different needs of the people. But it must be a collaborative effort between government and the citizen, so that we can really get to where we need to get to as regards developmental infrastructure in the state.
Still on health, in Lagos, we have the Ilera Eco Health Insurance Scheme. And recently, the Lagos State government has launched the measles rubella vaccination, and that is free for children between age 0 to 14 years. I'd like you to also touch on that.
Particularly the measles, they call it measles. I monitored some local governments where these vaccines where children were vaccinated, and sincerely, I give it to them. When in terms of health in Lagos State, I'm sure Lagos is like a model for every other state in the country, and I mean this, and I can stand by it in terms of infrastructural development in our health sector. However, we also need government to monitor most of these policies and initiatives. Sometimes government will tell you that health is free from age so to age so, you know. But when you get to the hospital, it is a different ball game entirely. Sometimes government will say when you get to the hospital for antenatal, or it's free for women who are pregnant, for, you know, these are things that they need to enjoy.
Even immunization is free.
You know, but at times, those who are to administer this also take advantage of vulnerability of the people. So government still need to do a check and monitor. But sincerely, in terms of health, I think Lagos State has done so well, but they can still do more, particularly because of the growing population that we continue to witness in the state.
Let's touch on education now.
Education, well, for any nation whatsoever that really want to do well, must also prioritize education. All these countries, the developed countries of the world, the United States of America, the UK, the Canada, you know, the Asian tigers and the likes, the Middle East, Dubai, all of them, is because they are called priority to education. It's because they also found research so helpful and so needful. Is the reason why they prioritize research. They fund research so well. Look at that bridge, you know, that the Falomo, Ikoyi, you know. Do you know how many people that this same bridge, because of the traffic bottleneck, and government, you know, they were thinking out of the box, and we have this bridge. You cannot have this bridge if there is no education, if there is no research. It was through research. They sat down, they sat back, and just like we have the link bridge between Olapade and Ojota. So that's what we are talking about, government thinking out of the box, because that will take some traffic bottleneck from Allen Avenue and Olapade. They can easily just bust out at Ojota. The same thing also applicable from those who are also moving towards Allen. You don't need to parabolate. There is a link bridge now, you know, and that's how development can also go rapidly across the metropolis. So it is work in progress, and whether the government likes it or not is a challenging responsibility. But with what is coming in as a federal allocation and also being generated internally, I think Lagos State government, they can't carry last, whether they like it or not.
You've already touched on security while we started the show, but is there anything you'd like to add on?
Well, security-wise, they used to tell us that when you see something, you also say something.
Do something.
If you see a strange phrase in your neighborhood, and government is also doing something in Lagos that many people don't know, there are people in the neighborhood that are also like whistleblowers. I'm just telling Lagos undercover. You don't know that they're also employed by government, and that's why we have not had any major security issue in the state. And even we have the Lagos State Security Trust Fund that are also empowering the security architecture of the state, be it police, navy, army, civil defense, and all sort of security apparatus. They empower them through equipment, and I know that those who are also in the Lagos Rapid Response Squad, I know they're also well taken care of. And that's why we have not had a major bank robbery and the likes, because Lagos is really fortified when it comes to security. So, but whether we like it or not, those who also is a joint effort. You don't leave everything to government. You don't let the case get worse before you raise alarm. If you see anything that is sinister, anything that is strange in your environment, the best thing to do is to, and I know we have free toll lines that you can call to raise alarm, also to also blow the whistle. So for security wise, I think I don't think any state can beat Lagos to that. Sincerely.
All right. You talked about citizens' participation, saying that the government has their own duties and responsibilities, and of course the people have their own role to play. So I'd like us to dwell on that now. To what extent does citizens' participation influence development in Lagos? Well,
number one is for us to follow rules and regulations. As citizens of the country, even it is said in the Bible and Quran that you must respect the leadership. You must follow rules and regulations. That's for we as citizens. And secondly, it's just this part of the world that we take it for granted. You dare not live in abroad and fail to pay your levies or to pay is a criminal offense. But here, and it's just because people will say, what do they do with the money they collect? I still provide my water myself, I still provide my security, I still provide my electricity and the like. So, but nonetheless, do your own part. When you do your own part, then you can now hold your council chairman, you can hold your governor, you can also hold Mr. President accountable as citizens of the country that has also done your own part. As you know, I said it is dual responsibility. But in most times, we citizens, we also failed in our responsibility, and we are very quick to point accusing fingers at those who are leading us, that our governor is not doing well, our minister is not doing well, and our president or our council chairman are not doing well. But have we also done the needful in our own part? Have we also contributed in a way to show or to ensure that we have good governance? The answer is no. I sat down to point, and I did a mathematics of the figure of those who are leading us, presidents, vice president, ministers. I'm not sure it's up to about 100,000. You can also sit down and do this mathematics. The commissioners, the members of National Assembly, the MDAs as in ministry, department, agency, they are now up to about 100,000 in a country that we say we are over 200 million. Can we then say because 100,000 people are bad, are not doing well, is the reason why we are where we are today? The answer is no. It's because majority of the citizens are also not doing well, are also not bad. Family is the basic unit of every society. Have I done well in my own family? We criticize people doing something that is offensive on the road. They came from one family. If each of our family, we are doing well, then we have a very good society. And whether we like it or not, development will cascade from local government to state to federal. But we are quick to say, oh, the president, local government are now having more money. State government are now having more money. So we should be less dependent on the federal government. But we are very quick to say, oh, federal government. Now, money, they are pushing money heavily to states. They are pushing money heavily to local government. There is financial autonomy now for our local government. So it is our responsibility now as citizens of the country. We have the Information Act that you can also use as your defense to ask questions from government, to ask questions from the president, to ask questions from the council chairman that you receive so amount of money. Can you give us a detailed account of how this money has been expended? But most of us, sometimes we also lay back. We also feel like, well, I'm less concerned. We must be concerned, particularly now that we are all aware that Mr. President is also maybe through federalism is also reaching out across in terms of funding to states and local government. So I don't think that any state should complain at the moment, and I don't think likewise that any council chairman, particularly in Lagos, that will reside. And we are seeing this development, particularly in the last tale of the council chairman before we had the election. We saw the way the council chairmen statewide were also inaugurating new projects. At the point, the first lady of the country came to inaugurate big projects that you may never think that can be handled by local government in Lagos State. So that shows that financial autonomy is working, and definitely we also expect them to do more.
And this will also lead to the question of accountability on the part of the leaders, and then how the people measure progress, and how important is transparency also on the part of the leaders.
This is a very big one. Accountability is one of our is one of the bane of our development in the country. And we're also quick to also add corruption to that. Corruption is a major challenge, whether we like it or not. Corruption. A former president came and said, corruption. You know? So, and whether we like it or not, is also part of the reason why I said it is dual responsibility. You can't say that I'm not bothered, I'm not concerned. We must be bothered about who rule us, about those who also govern us. That's where we have the media. That's where we have the civil society group. That's where we have the non-governmental organization. And that's where we have the CDCA, the Community Development Association. So it is a collective responsibility. And we, just like I said, we have the Freedom of Information Bill that we can use as defense to also ask questions. But how many of us have tested the eligibility of this Freedom of Information Bill? This is what we can use to ask our governor. The governor, we learned that for the month of February, this is how much you got from the federal allocation. Mr. Governor, for the month of February, this is your internally generated revenue. Can you give us an explanation how this money was expended? So we can use Freedom of Information Bill, and the governor dare say no to give account. But do we even test the waters in this regard? We just feel like we are not concerned, but we must be concerned.
Is it not because, again, there's an issue of trust that has been broken in time past?
Well, of course, you also raised a valid point as regards the trust deficits in our leadership, and that's also where the issue of corruption also comes in. Over the years, it doesn't start with this present government, but Nigerians, we find it so difficult sometimes to also believe what is coming from government because of the antecedent in the past. But I hope that we can also change this narrative, because whether we like it or not, we have no other country than Nigeria. We have no other state than Lagos State. So we must also be partner in progress, whether we like it or not.
We have no other country than Nigeria, and no other state
like Lagos.
Like Lagos. There is no place like Lagos. Developmental philosophy in governance, the Lagos example. Thank you so much, Taiwo Olapade, for your time on the conversation. I wanted to say with these few points of mine, but I'm not the one that dropped the points.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for sharing insight on this topic. The conversation continues. Stay with us.